What's going on, guys? Long time no see. It is your boy Perry back with a very long-awaited edition of Perry's Points. Obviously, it's been a very long time, but here I am. I'm shaved, freshly cleaned, no hair on my face. My hair is a mess back here. I got the hat kind of keeping everything in place. I know I look like a total mess, but hey, that's what happens when COVID finally gets lifted, and obviously the most I could plan for is a very nice clean shave, and obviously I need a haircut up next at some point. But anyways, welcome back, guys. It's been a very long time since I've done Perry's Points. I know I've just had a lot of stuff going on. I think the last show I did, I had finals going on at the time with school, so that kind of had me preoccupied for a while. Then afterwards, I've been working my other job in San Francisco. I work at the San Francisco Giants' ballpark as a groundskeeper, so that's kind of like my fun summer job. So that's something that's really kept me busy as well. But anyways, I'm back on my Wednesday shows once a week, every Wednesday. I think I'll move the times to the evenings from now on just to kind of get everyone self-acclimated, everyone's out at home situated. Before it was in the afternoons. Now I think I'm going to do the evenings around 6 or 7 p.m. Pacific time. So anyways, let's get right into it, guys. Ace Daddy, how you doing, man? Long time no chat. Niner Media, how's it going? Amin the Dream, what's going on? What's going on, everyone watching? Again, it is your boy Perry, back with another edition of Perry's Points. Again, I'll be doing this every Wednesday around in the California evening time, 6 to 7 to 8 o'clock or so. Maybe about half an hour. I know today's show will be about half an hour since, it's the off season. There's not too much to talk about in regards to the Niners, but that doesn't mean there isn't stuff to talk about. And I kind of want to get right into it with the Niners stuff. Obviously, from the last time I talked, I think we were talking about the hype with Trey Lance. We were talking about some of the other draft picks, everything going on. That's just kind of how long it's been. So let's get right into it, though, you guys. I kind of want to get the sad stuff out of the way. Tarvarius Moore injury, Justin Skule injury, kind of the summary of the team for what it's been worth for the past 3 or 4 seasons now. Obviously, injuries have just plagued the team left and right, and I don't necessarily think that Tarvarius Moore and Justin Skule should be an indicator of what's going to go on with the team moving. Okay, my bad. Sorry. Let's just hope that those guys are going to be okay moving forward. I know Tarvarius Moore's injury, I believe, is a partial Achilles tear, so I believe he can come back in 6 to 7 months if I read that correctly at the time. And then I know Justin Skule had an ACL tear, so he's going to be done for the season, obviously. These injuries really suck. That's the bottom line. That's kind of what teams just go through and through year after year. That's what the Niners have been absolutely pummeled by year after year. And let's just hope that Skule and Moore aren't the start of something that none of us want to expect moving down the road, as the offseason progresses, as everything progresses. And I thought it was pretty interesting, to say the least, that after those 2 injuries, I think the Niners canceled those mini camps, and instead they did a little team bonding thing or whatever. And then moving forward, I don't think they've had any more practices afterwards. Or if they did, they were very minimal. I know I've seen Trey Lance getting a lot of work right now. He's been throwing to college receivers. He's been throwing to Mohamed Sanu. Lance has just absolutely been getting his work in. And I will say that from the videos that I've seen just of him practicing, and I think we should all take videos of practice with a grain of salt, Trey Lance has looked really good for the most part. And I think that's what everyone is absolutely excited about. Everyone's been waiting on it. And I see that the conversations have really died down quite a bit since Trey Lance got drafted. And the following week or so, once things really picked up and slowed down, it seems like people are still 50-50 about Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo starting between the two. And, I mean, I get it. I'll tell you right now, I don't exactly know how I feel about that as well. Everyone in the Niners hive knows that I was a really big fan of Trey Lance pretty much since day one, or however long ago I was on his hype train. I knew Trey Lance was going to be the guy. It was a gut feeling, and it worked. Thank goodness it worked. But Justin Fields would have been good too. But it's really hard to tell because from what we've seen, Garoppolo and Lance both haven't looked that bad in training camp. So it seems like the quarterback controversy is going to really pick up once July ends, once we kind of get into August, preseason really kicks off. It's going to be exciting, though. Lance getting in the zone. He's hungry. Yeah, I agree, man. All those videos we've seen of him, Lance has just looked spot on. He's hitting his throws in practice. He's hitting where he needs to go. He's been throwing it really well. I've seen a lot of film study of Lance going on lately that it looks like it's getting broken down for the better.
Obviously, Lance has really had a lot of highlights to show in just one spectacular season at North Dakota. But that one spectacular season, you have a lot to take away from it. And when you look at that with Lance, and when you really look at what you can do in terms of plugging that into Shanahan's offense, it's really exciting. I mean, it's more, absolutely more than what we can imagine in terms of exciting. Corey, how you doing, bud? How's it going? Nice to see some people in the chat right now. Niner media, I don't think we will know as much until they start scrimmaging in practice. I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's kind of why I want to hit the brakes a bit on the hype train between Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion. I mean, right now, they had some 11-on-11 training, I'm sure. Also, a lot of 7-on-7 training. So it's not like Lance has really gotten full padded practices and NFL pace practice pretty much with the first team. I think most of his work has been with the second team. So he's been getting the job done, and he's been doing what he needs to do. It's just a matter of, can he execute with the guys who really know what's going on? And that's not to knock Lance and what's going on with him now. I mean, if he's executing against the second team, good for him. But I want to see him do this stuff in scrimmages, like Niner Media says. I want to see him doing it against the ones, against Jimmy Ward, against Hart, or Tony Jefferson, whoever's going to be the starting safeties. K'Waun Williams, Emmanuel Mosley, those guys. I want to see who is going to be who's really going to execute and how Lance is really going to do. But it's exciting. I think it's absolutely exciting. When you kind of look at the practice, though, kind of switching up the pace a little bit, I think that it's very telling that the Niners canceled their training camps after those two injuries happened. I don't know if it's them going, hey, look, this seems to be a year after year thing where guys get hurt in the preseason, guys get hurt in the offseason off of some just, regular practices. And I don't know if they're pushing these guys too hard. I don't know if these guys just aren't built properly. And that's not to knock School and Moore and whoever else has been hurt in the past. But it's very telling and kind of a little concerning, to say the least. And the fact that they canceled practice, it was like, wow, okay. I mean, kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, but it makes sense. I mean, the moment all those injuries happened, a lot of people on Niners Twitter, kind of jokingly, half serious, half joking, were like, cancel practice, stop the practice, this is it, just end it now. And then a lot of people pulled the reference to, who was it, Chase Claypool. When Chase Claypool and the Steelers mentioned how his friend, who was Chris Finke, I believe, at the time, who was on the Niners practice squad, had told him that they were practicing full padded, I think, every week and almost every day. And that's not to knock how they're practicing, you guys. I mean, if Shanahan wants them to practice hard, then that's fine. I get it. But, I mean, it's a little concerning, that when you see that and then Chris Finke gets cut, it's like, okay, well, Finke shouldn't have been talking about that stuff to begin with. But the fact that we know that now, it's out there, and then two guys basically hit season-ending injuries, it's like, ooh, that might not necessarily be a good look on the 49ers training staff. But, hey, sometimes bad luck happens. I mean, the Niners have had it. The Chargers have had it. The Cowboys have recently had it. Lots of teams with bad luck. Bay Area Baller 18, what's going on, my man? I hope you're doing really well. Everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. It's been a pretty long time since I've done Perry's Points. Like I said at the start, I will be back doing this every Wednesday, 6, 7, 8 p.m. Pacific time for about half an hour, maybe an hour, depending on how hot everything gets. But, hey, I mean, aside from the California heat, the Niners heat has been pretty cool for the most part. But like I said earlier, there's been a lot of pretty exciting storylines, or at the least pretty interesting storylines to go for the most part. So everyone who hears this in the chat right now, I want you guys to comment what you think about the Julio Jones thing. Obviously, this happened a few weeks ago, and I know it's been a while for me, so I'm kind of late to the train. But I kind of want to see where you guys stand with Julio Jones right now and how you feel about that. And I will tell you guys right now, I was a little disappointed the Niners didn't get Julio Jones. I'm not going to lie. And look, there's a lot to break down with Julio Jones. I mean, he's 31 going into his age 32 season, I believe. He's played in a lot of games throughout his career, and he hasn't necessarily missed a lot of time. I think last season he missed a couple of games, or the season before he did. But the thing with Julio is that he's like Hopkins. They get a lot of these like nagging injuries where like Julio had to deal with the toe thing, or Julio had to deal with some kind of back problem or a hip or a thigh or whatever it may be. But Julio really just plays through all those injuries. And I mean, it's kind of, it kind of goes into the whole boat of, well, the Niners shouldn't really be targeting injury-prone guys. because the philosophy of that changed a lot in this draft class and even in the offseason, in the free agency cycle, where they got guys like Alex Mack who hardly missed any games, who can go out there and just ball. You got guys like Zach Kerr and Maurice Hurst who just go out there and just play. Arden Key, same thing. These guys don't really miss games. They just go out and just play. And then you look at the draft where it's like Trey Lance never had any injury. Aaron Banks, the lineman out of Notre Dame, didn't have any injuries. Trey Sermon, same thing. I think he had the injury in the CFB playoff game 2 seasons ago. I think it was a knee injury, but that was really it. Otherwise, he's been fine. And then the only guy who I think had some type of major injury concern was Talanoa Hufanga out of USC in the 5th round. So you look at that and you look at their philosophy, and it's like, okay, I think they're trying to get away from the injury and the injury risk guys where that risk is really high. And Julio Jones was the same thing, honestly. Let's see. Barry Baller, glad he's in the AFC, but yeah, I wanted to, right? I mean, you look at what they got for him, the Titans. I mean, a 2nd-round pick and I think a 4th. So that's the thing about that trade is that you look at the Niners who gave up 2 first-round picks and technically 3. I don't want to debate about that because people seem to not agree that it was 3 first-round picks they traded, 3. But they don't have any ones for this coming draft and the one after. So you look at that and you figure, oh, well, then the 2nd-round pick becomes more valuable. And then you also look at how successful the Niners have been drafting in the 2nd round in previous years. I mean, Deebo Samuel's been good, but he's oft injured. Dante Pettis didn't make it. You know what I mean? A couple 2nd-round picks right there. So hoping for the best with Aaron Banks. But, I mean, if the Niners haven't had the best of luck in the 2nd round, in my opinion, I think they could have forfeited that 2nd-round pick in the 4th or another one of those 3rd-round picks to get Julio because the wide receiver room is good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Ayuk is solid. Deebo Samuel's solid when he's healthy. I mean, got to pray Jalen Hurts stays healthy. River Craycraft, I guess. I mean, Mohamed Sanu. So the wide receiver room isn't that bad, but it definitely could have used some type of upgrade, in my opinion. Niner Media, Titans game got more difficult. Yes, they did. Imagine an offense where you lose your starting tight end, Jonnu Smith. You lose Michael Pruitt, who the Niners signed, who I love, by the way. I think that's a great signing. But instead, you add Julio Jones with A.J. Brown. You still got Derrick Henry in the wing. You got Ryan Tannehill, who had a top 10 season. That is a top 5 passing offense and probably a top 5 efficient offense. My only concern with the Titans, and it's probably minor, is I know you can add Julio to the mix, but you lose Arthur Smith. You lose that main cog in the offense, the offensive play caller in Arthur Smith. And it kind of opens the door to question about how is the Titans offense going to do. I mean, it's an entirely new situation. So Julio Jones ad for them is great. I think it's awesome, but it's tough. It kind of depends on like how you view it. It can definitely go both ways. Ace Daddy, not getting Julio sucks, but Jennings looks good for the Niners and Hurd healthy. Oh, boo. Yeah, man, I know. I mean, Julio, it does suck. I think Julio would have added just an entirely different element to the offense entirely. I had to say that twice because that's how important it is. But, hey, you know what? I mean, Jauan Jennings does not look bad at all. He just needs to stay healthy. I think he has a decent shot to make the 53. He'll probably be the wide receiver 4 or 5 or, hell, even the 3, man. I mean, wide receiver 3 spot is up for grabs. Jalen Hurd, if he stays healthy, he is the wide receiver 3. But I do want the team to manage him carefully and cautiously. If he's healthy going into the season and he makes the team, obviously, I want Jalen Hurd probably getting like 10 to 15 snaps a game. I'm not going to lie. I know that sounds very minimal. And I know in NFL games, I think the average offensive snaps per game is about 50, 55. So 10 to 15 isn't that bad. But it's like, this guy's got to stay healthy. He had the back problem. Then he tears his ACL. It's like all this stuff. And it's like, just stay healthy. You have so much potential. Let's see. Niners Ultimate Report. Sub Niners Side, great content. Thanks. Yeah, you can see Niners content creator. That is me. Obviously, it's been a long time since I've presented information and just even talked 49ers. But again, every Wednesday in the evening Pacific time, I'm back. I'm back, baby. SF Dre, what's going on? How many games do you think Ward and Tart will miss this year? I didn't see that in the comments until right now. And I was hoping that said, like, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, so kind of saw it. I was like, I thought it said how many they're going to play. So I was like, oh, I got my hopes up. But no, Dre's got to be the sad one in the chat and say, how much are they going to miss? You know what? I think
we can safely say that Jimmy Ward has kind of moved on from the injury thing he's been going on with. I know Jimmy Ward is one of those guys who I think will probably have some nagging injuries. I'm going to pull up his stats right now. Have up some nagging injuries, but he can play. All right, so Jimmy Ward, last 3 seasons, 2018, played in 9 games, started in 7, so he missed 7. He missed 7 games. 2019, he played in 13 games. 2020, he played in 14 games. So you figure that in a now 36-game season, the fact that Jimmy Ward has played in, has played in 27 games, I mean, that's good for him. That's absolutely good for Jimmy Ward. I'll take 27 games of Jimmy Ward over, 20 or 15. But it's hard to bank on him staying healthy, I mean, he is an absolute wrecker in the backfield. The guy can get the job done, or in secondary, The guy can get the job done. He just needs to stay healthy. And then same thing with Jaquiski Tartt. He's another one of those guys who just needs to stay healthy, and he can contribute. Someone, I forgot who it was. Someone on Twitter was talking about how the 49ers defense with Robert Saleh kind of puts Jaquiski Tartt and Jimmy Ward in a position where they can mostly make plays in the secondary in terms of breaking up passes, blocking passing lanes, things of that nature, where Jimmy Ward is the robber, Tartt is the robber, or kind of that underneath zone guy where they just more or less spy the middle of the field and have one of the corners or one of the other guys drop back in the secondary. And it's just, they utilize the safety so differently. And I saw a quote from DeMeco Ryans talk about how, it was either Ryans or Jimmy Ward, they were talking about how Jimmy Ward will be utilized more differently this year. I think that Jimmy Ward might finally be that playmaker, that game wrecker that we've all been hoping to see out of him. And if that's the case, I mean, Jimmy Ward is already nasty in coverage. He's absolutely filthy. If you guys follow Eric Crocker on Twitter, he does a lot of Jimmy Ward breakdowns, and he talks about him and hypes him up a lot. Jimmy Ward is a smart, fantastic player when he's healthy, and I wouldn't be surprised that if DeMeco Ryans puts him in more of a position to make plays on the ball or make plays against the ball carrier, I think he can force some fumbles and get the job done. And that's the same thing with Tartt, too. Tartt will also be like Jimmy Ward in the sense where if he's not down in the box, if he is in coverage, I think he'll get more of an opportunity to make a play on the ball, and I'll take that. The Niners secondary in the past 2 or 3 seasons has not been good in terms of turnovers. In my opinion, at least, it feels like Tavarius Moore has the most interceptions in the safety field, and I think he has 1 or 2. And I might just be thinking of the Super Bowl. So it's tough, but I think DeMeco Ryans will put the safeties in a really good situation. I still have questions about the wide receiver room. Yeah, Niner media, it's tough. If Debo or Ayuk go down, I trust Shanahan. I trust Lance or Garoppolo if they're healthy. But, man, it's a lot harder with those guys, at the wide receiver positions. Ace Daddy, should Niners take a look at Earl Thomas? Try out Jimmy closer to the line. Yeah, I would like Jimmy down in the box a little more. I mean, I think he's feisty and aggressive enough to force fumbles and make plays. The problem with him with that, though, is that I think if you put Ward down in the box a little more or closer to the line, you might run the risk of just him taking on more contact. And that's just kind of like me thinking about how they see Jimmy Ward and if they want him to just, be more on ball and really just make plays down by the line, which is fine. He can do it. It's just I think Ward would be better off in coverage just to preserve him and just for his overall level of play. Now, Ace Daddy, if we're talking about Jaquiski Tartt, him I would like to see on the line a lot more. I think when Tartt is a robber, when Tartt is kind of playing that safety linebacker hybrid position, I think Tartt can be that guy and make some plays on the ball. I mean, we've seen him force a fumble. We saw him rip out that fumble in 2019 against the Ravens, and it's like guys kind of tend to luck into those kind of things. But then when you watch Tartt and you watch him play, his potential. He can go and be that guy. It's just a matter of how much is he going to be in that position to really make a play. Because when we've seen all the interceptions and all the forced fumbles and turnovers, we've seen 90% of them, at least in my opinion, 90% of them come from Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Quan Alexander at the time, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, DeForest Buckner in 2019, D Ford in the sense, all those guys. I think it was those guys in the front 7 that I think were making those plays on the ball a lot more than the back 4 or back 5, depending on the coverage. So it's a big toss-up, but I think DeMeco Ryans will let the safeties and let the corners really be in more of a position to make plays on the ball. And that's not to say that the guys we have aren't ball hawks or can't be that. Emmanuel Moseley can be that guy. I think Jason Verrett can absolutely be that guy. Verrett healthy will just absolutely kick ass. It's just a matter of will they be in those positions more often than not to make those plays. Ace Daddy continued. Bosa, Fred, Ward, Verrett, best players in on defense. Great players. I mean, Jimmy Ward and Jason Verrett in the secondary, those guys are just if you talk to Scott Gielan, or if you see Scott Gielan on Twitter, hi, sweetie. It's my husky. If you talk to Scott Gielan on Twitter, he will just, light up about Jimmy Ward. It's like he's just so good. And, Scott was a huge Tyrann Mathieu fan since day one. When he was with Arizona, obviously he's with Kansas City now. Tyrann Mathieu is just insane. He's an absolutely insane athlete. I think Scott sees a lot of Tyrann Mathieu in Jimmy Ward, and I do too. I think they're absolutely phenomenal safeties. The difference is that I think Jimmy Ward's just not put in the positions to do the things that Tyrann Mathieu does on defense between one another. Because if you put Jimmy Ward in Tyrann Mathieu's role, I think, and this might be a little bold, but I think Jimmy Ward can have as good or even a better season than Tyrann Mathieu had in 2019, 2020 when they played. That's just how filthy both of those guys are. Dre, Lenore, Thomas, which one do you think could be a starter on the squad? You know what? I think if we look at draft value, I think Thomas was taken in the third round, pick 88. And then Diomedor, I think that's how you say his name, Diomedor Lenore, was taken in the 5th or 6th round. Obviously, I'm going to go with a high draft pick right now, Ambry Thomas. I was actually a little high on Ambry. And the reason why I say that is because I saw the reports saying he was supposed to be a second-round pick had he not opted out for COVID. I think it was this season or the one before or whatever. And I watched some of his film, and I'm not a secondary expert. I'm not a corner expert, but I know basic stuff. And watching Ambry Thomas, the guy just makes plays. He can absolutely make plays on the ball. He's pretty solid in coverage. He's pretty solid in man. He's, with Jim Harbaugh's defense in Michigan, Ambry kind of did it all in that outside corner position. And Ambry can be that guy. I don't know if Ambry can be like the guy. I don't know if he can be, even like a tier 2 corner, for example. Say Jason Verrett's a tier 2 corner. Or Stephon Gilmore, who dropped off last season. Stephon Gilmore, I would say, is a tier 2 corner at this point, in my opinion. Patrick Peterson, off the top of my head. CJ Henderson, maybe he's a tier 3. I think Ambry is in that tier 3 category, tier 4 right now until he plays. But I do think Ambry Thomas has a really good ceiling. And Dre, to further your question here, Lenore has had some of the best practice film that we've seen so far. Obviously, Lenore got fined and the Niners got in trouble for that video of Lenore leaking where he intercepted who was it? Who was the one that was in who was wide receiver? I forget who he was in coverage against. But he absolutely dogged the wide receiver. Wide receiver might have slipped a little, give him a break, but Lenore's coverage was still really good. And I think that Lenore has a chance to make the 53-man roster. Cornerback position is kind of like what the Niners are going through at wide receiver right now. The only difference is that wide receiver 1 and 2, cornerback 1 and 2 are both set for the 49ers. Everything afterwards is a bit of a toss-up. So I'm going to pull up the corners right now. Let's see. The Niners on their roster have Mark Fields, Tim Harris, Dante Johnson, the legend. Okay, sorry guys, mic problems. The corner room is a little bit of a mix-up behind Verrett and Emmanuel Moseley. Obviously, your starting 3 corners are Moseley, K1, and Verrett. But if one of those guys get hurt, and all 3 of them have had nagging injury problems in the past, I believe, one of those 3 gets hurt, who's going to be the guy to step up? Dante Johnson scares me. I think we all know that. Dante Johnson absolutely scares us for the most part. And then you have 2 rookies in Lenore and Ambry Thomas. And I don't know. You know what? I think they'll be okay, guys. I think that if Bosa is healthy, I think that if Ebukam has a really good season, if Kerr, if Hurst, if Kinlaw, if Armstead, if all those guys just have really solid seasons also, I think that the secondary will be similarly reminiscent to 2019 where Ahkello Witherspoon, Richard Sherman, then K1, Emmanuel Moseley, and those guys were just having themselves career seasons, in my opinion. If those guys can all stay healthy, if the D-line can stay healthy, which is where it starts up front, I think they're okay. Back to Ace Daddy. How many safeties do the Niners keep? Who stays on the roster? Well, you know what? I'll tell you right now, Ace. I think that once the Niners lost Farius Moore, I think that's going to change their opinion a little bit about who they carry as safeties. So Jimmy Ward, Eric Armstead, those are the two locks at safety, in my opinion. Let's see. Let me find the safeties right now. Go to the roster. Okay, here we go. Marcelo Harris, Talanoa Hufanga, Tony Jefferson, Jared Maiden, Kai Nakua, Jaquaski Tartt, and Tavon Wilson. That's a lot of safeties, man. And I mean, they have some corners who will probably convert to safety as well. Edgar, how you doing? How's it going, my man? Hope you're doing well. Ace, safeties. So I like Tony Jefferson. I think he's a fantastic safety when he's healthy. I don't think he's played in the past 2 seasons, and that's because of might be because of injury. I think I know he had a pretty significant injury last year, the year before. Yeah, so he didn't play last season, and then the season prior, 2019, he only played 5 games. So he's missed a lot of time in the past 2 seasons. So I think it's an uphill climb for Tony Jefferson, but I think if he's healthy, he's definitely a solid backup safety or even interchangeable. And, you know, that's the thing, too, is I think you look at all the safeties right now. I think the way they'll use Tony is Tony can be a strong safety. He's primarily been a strong safety. 2019, he's listed as a free safety, so I guess the Ravens used him both ways. But it seems like he'll be the backup to Jaquaski Tartt, and that's okay. I think that's absolutely okay. If I'm the Niners, though, man, it's tough because you value corners and you value safeties. And I think that the Niners are going to try and get some of these guys to be versatile. I mean, Tartt's not going to play corner. Jimmy Ward can play nickel corner, I believe, but that's not the priority with Ward. Ward needs to be in the secondary as a safety. Marcelo Harris can play in a pinch, but he's, primarily special teams. Talanoa Hufanga, we don't know what to expect out of him, but he's gotten a lot of praise, so I kind of almost expect him to be a lock to make the 53-man. So that leaves Tavon Wilson, Kai Nakua, and Jared Maiden. So I don't know about those 3. I think of the 3 in terms of overall experience, I think Tavon Wilson will likely make the team just because he's a veteran. I'm sure he has special teams experience that they covet greatly. And that's the thing with the Niners is that they have absolutely coveted the special teams defense. And I think they want a lot of speed. They want a lot of guys who can hit. And we've seen the Niners on special teams defense have always tried to lay out the wood if they can. And that includes Mitch Wishnowsky. That guy can hit too. But they have definitely tried to really just put the hammer on some guys, and if that's what they're valuing, Hufanga will make the team. Jefferson will make the team if he plays special teams. Tavon Wilson, Tartt, Marcel Harris, and Ward. So let's see. Tartt, Jefferson, Hufanga, Ward, Harris. 5. I think they could roll 5 safeties. I'd be okay with 5 safeties. 5 safeties. I think 4 corners, 4 or 5 corners is about what I expect. He's dead. SF Drake. How many more years will Robbie Gould play? Should we draft a kicker in the future or sign a free agent? Robbie Gould, man. Robbie Gould. You know what? That's one of those guys where I'm just like, it's a kicker. They're replaceable. I know he just had that renegotiated contract not too long ago, I believe. Let's see. How old is he? He is 38 years old. Last season, he had 82% of his kicks. Season before, 74%. I know the Niners were having long snapper issues. Kyle Nelson got suspended, and then the other guy they had, I think, only played like 1 game, right? He played in 1 game, and then he just retired, surprisingly. He was the due for the Raiders for a long time, I think. So I think the Niners are set at long snapper, so Gould should have no excuse. Tabor Pepper, he seems like a good long snapper. He seems very well liked. But you know what? I think if I'm Robbie Gould and if I'm the 49ers, I'm going to pull up his contract rate. If I'm the 49ers, I think that the Niners should just call it after this coming season. Kickers have recently been aging out pretty well for the most part. Janikowski aged out really well. Adam Vinatieri aged out really well. Matt Bryant of the Falcons at the time, very good. And Robbie Gould right now is another one of those kickers that's just getting old, but he's still doing the thing he needs to do. So Oh, sorry about that, guys. When I switch, I can't see if I go mute. I don't know how much was lost. I'm sorry. But basically, Robbie Gould has decent dead cap hits going into this season and the season after. So I think Robbie Gould will play out this contract and be done. In 2022, he has a $5.5 million dead cap hit and a 5.5 normal cap hit. So if I was the Niners, I would just let it play it out. Obviously, if Robbie Gould doesn't play well, end it, just cut the ties right there, and then just find a new kicker. I think kickers have been really weird lately. I think teams recently have been coveting the kicker position. I've seen a lot of kickers in the past few years get drafted in the 6th, 7th, 5th rounds, which makes sense. I mean, that's the spot for the kicker, but generally, you don't put draft capital towards the kicker position unless it's like Michael Dixon, for example. He's a punter. That's like sorry, Dre. I'm hoping you can hear me right now. I think you can. Let me look at my settings real quick. Yeah, my mic's moving. You can hear me. Oh, it's lost. Kickers are getting drafted, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. Recently, in the past few years, that's been happening a lot. And I think that's okay if that team really values that kicker. But my problem with it, though, is that if you're the 49ers right now and you gave up the 1s, you gave up a 3 also, the Niners make a lot of moves in this draft and in any draft where they like to move up. Using that draft capital in the later parts of the draft might not be ideal. Now, if they feel like a generational type kicker or just a big, strong kicker is there and available at 5, 6, or 7, go for it. I mean, I don't mind that. But again, it's just all about value. I think it really depends on, do you value the kicker? Do you value where he's going to go, who he is? Because, I mean, you look at the fails in the past, man. I mean, Janikowski, the first round? I know that was years ago, but come on. Janikowski, really. And then you look at what the Buccaneers did a few years ago with Roberto Aguayo, took him in the 2nd round. Oh, that was such a bad pick. But anyways, guys, it's been half an hour. I know I'm pushing the time I talked about a little bit. This was kind of a free range Perry's points. There was a lot to discuss, a little bit to break down. It's it's a slow off season, but I think 49ers Twitter, if you guys have been keeping up with it, has kept everyone entertained. I don't know if you guys follow Rich Madrid. He absolutely bodies people and just goes off on them. Eric Crocker, one of my favorite follows, talks all kinds of Niner stuff and all kinds of NFL stuff. Shout out to Croc, by the way, who's on the Locked On podcast now with Brad Peacock. Hey, how about that, huh? How about our boy Eric Crocker? Jason Apani, all the guys at 49GM, and of course, everyone at 49ers Hive. Those are my guys. We're always talking Niners. Yeah, it's been a slow off season, so we've just been kind of chatting it up. But when the Niners conversations start in that chat, do they really get going? But guys, aside from me, follow the Red and Gold Standard podcast. Zach and Matt have just been killing it, absolutely doing their thing. They're doing shows every week. I mean, they've been grinding it out in a really slow off season, like I said, and they put out content for you guys because they care about you guys, and they love you guys, and they love talking all things Niners. And same thing, they like shooting the crap, they just like talking. That's what they do, and that's what we do here at 49ers Hive. It's a lot of fun, you guys. It's absolutely a lot of fun. Edgar, you're my last comment. Thinking great, just in your opinion, how 49 could to play against Bucks or KC with 49 present team. Edgar, I'm not going to lie, man. I don't know what you're going off with, but if the Niners had to play the Bucks and the Kansas City Chiefs, say in the playoff game and then the Super Bowl, depending on if it's Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo, I think they could get the job done. But my bias is kicking in heavily. That's a big toss-up. We got to get to the preseason games first just to see how that's going to go. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I know it's been a really long time since I've talked. Every week, every Wednesday night, 6, 7, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Will be varied, but I'll tweet it out beforehand. Guys, follow me on Twitter at Anthony R.M. Perry. I'll usually be tweeting about 49ers. Recently, it's been baseball. It's been a lot of baseball. The A's and Giants have absolutely been kicking butt. I work for the Giants, but I'm an A's fan, so kind of goes hand in hand. But, guys, support the Bay Area sports teams. Support your 49ers. It's a long off season, but August is going to come soon enough, you guys, and then we'll have a lot to talk about. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Give me a follow on Twitter once again at Anthony R.M. Perry. Give the Red and Gold Standard podcast a follow on Twitter at RGS Pod as well. They're putting out shows every week, Zach and Matt. Give everything a follow. Check out 49ershive.com to check out all the content. Check out the store. Zach is always looking at new creations and new ideas to put things out for people to buy, just to look at, just to really enjoy it, because we have a wide variety of stuff you can look at on the store. But guys, thank you so much for following and tuning in to Perry's Points. I'll be back next Wednesday evening, California time. Have a great evening, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again. Have a great night.